Good morning. Hello. Welcome to When You Lead Live. I'm your host, Heidi Mitro. This is the place to be for high achievers and deep feelers who are looking to lead with more clarity, confidence, and direction. Now, why on earth would you want to lead with more clarity, confidence, and direction? Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. The people that I work with are the go getters. The people that I work with are the ones who have a big vision. They are the ones who have goals that feel bigger than they are. And they also have lives that are busier than maybe they are intending them to be. And what I know to be true is that let me give you a little backstory. So I have a background in body work. And so I have an undergrad in philosophy, I have a technical degree in massage, and I've got a million certifications in coaching to go with them. And what I have found truly is that when those that are caring for others, when the caregivers are cared for, the world shifts. And what I noticed when I was doing body work was that the people I was working with were really high achieving. But they didn't feel like it. There was a gap between how they felt and how they were perceived. And that is still true. There's a definite piece of what I do where I'm helping people bridge the gap between how they feel and how they're perceived. And typically they're perceived with a higher degree of caliber, like the way that they're viewed is higher than the way they view themselves. And when we bridge that gap, when we serve high achievers, when leaders who are already leading everyone else begin to lead themselves and begin to have this really comprehensively positive relationship with themselves more often than not, the world changes. And the ripple effect of high achievers and deep feelers being supported and having a positive relationship with themselves is immense. And the work that I do is incredible. And the reason that I choose to go live every Tuesday at 10, welcome to those of you, is because I know sometimes you just need a little hit. I know that you need. And today, what we're going to be talking about, stick around for this, is the idea that I don't have time. And I hear this all the time. And I am fresh off of a retreat. We got home a couple weeks ago. And what I'll tell you is that anytime I'm launching anything, anytime I'm inviting people into programs or retreats, one of the things that I hear is, oh, this isn't a good time. Once it gets to be XYZ, we talked about this last week as well, but what happens is there's never a good time because we start the year and it's like, oh, I'm exhausted from the holidays, and then we're headed into the winter months when it's too cold to do anything, and especially in the Midwest, and then we're headed into tax time, and then we've got summer coming up and all the things. Like, there's never a good time to do anything. And so when high achievers say, Heidi, I don't have time, what I am really hearing and what's been distilled down is that they're really struggling when it comes to their boundaries. And typically, when high achievers are having struggles with their boundaries, there's a couple of different culprits that happen. One, and we just need to name the elephant in our culture, is that historically, high achieving women have been left to do everything. And so there's this cultural expectation that not only are you going to work full time, whether in home or out of home, but you're also going to run everything else. You're going to be the volunteer. You're going to be the one who overfunctions in every single category. You're going to be the keeper of the schedules, the keeper of the traditions. I know for me, this time of year it's fuller because I retreat during this time with my company. We always do family pictures. We have a lot of birthdays that are congregated around this time. And then, of course, we are headed into the holidays. And it can be very, very challenging to have boundaries. But when you say, I don't have time, that's typically what's happening, is that somewhere in your life, your boundaries are lacking. And that's okay. That isn't meant to be a judgment. It's meant to be encouragement to go, oh, this doesn't mean that there's something wrong with me. It means that there's something wrong with this. This feeling of I don't have enough time is not like a personal banishment. It's not meant to be a personal judgment against your worth, or that you have a case of imposter syndrome, or that, all of these people pleasing things that happen. Sometimes truly this is just a boundaries thing. We don't have to make it so personal all the time. And I've heard it said, I read this, and it's kind of, a thing on social where it's like, instead of saying, I don't have time, say, this isn't a priority, and then see how that feels. I was like, when I say that's not a priority, that makes me feel worse. Why are we shaming me now? I already feel bad. And so when shame shows up, now you're distracted even more. Now it's even harder to make adjustments in your boundaries because now you're navigating shame too. It's like this pile on effect. So here, instead of saying it's not a priority, and instead of saying there's something wrong with me, why can't I get this all done? I want you to start shifting to what is wrong with this? Something is wrong. And we can use that language because your body is registering that something is actually wrong. Something is actually wrong. And we do not need to demonize. We do not need to demonize ourselves anymore. We have tried that and it didn't work. If we actually were benefiting from being mean to ourselves, the whole world would be in a different space, right? It's okay for you to say, I don't have time, and that feels terrible. Where in my boundaries do I need things adjusted? And what I'm going to tell you is that you do have more control than you know. And typically, the high achievers that I work with have been either called a control freak or they're self proclaimed control freaks. AAA personalities. Heidi, I'm a type A. I'm the get it done type of person. And I want you to actually own being a control freak. And I just had a meeting with my finance coach where he said this. And he was like, I'm a control freak. And he's like, quadruple, quintuplet type A. Todd, if you're watching, you know you are. And when he said, I'm a control freak and I love it on our last call, I was like, can you admit that? Because I'm sure as a white dude, that's cool for you, but a control freak as a woman in this culture makes me a bitch, right? And then, of course, I do what I do, where I looked up the word. And really, truly, the word control, I broke it down because I love words, I love the etymology of things. So the word control, when we break it down, when we define it, is to regulate. When we take regulate and we take it a step deeper, it means to rule. When we take rule a step deeper, it means to guide. And when we take guide a step deeper, it means to lead. And so if you are a control freak, which freak can mean a whole bunch of other things, that's maybe another show. But I want you to be the leader of your calendar. I want you to be the leader of your life. When you say, I don't have time, which, by the way, we need to talk about something called cognitive dissonance, because I don't have time can also be reinforcing. And I know this to be true for myself, when you say, I don't have time, your world literally has to present you with, I don't have enough time, so that you don't feel like you're crazy. Because if you think, oh my gosh, I don't have enough time. Oh my gosh, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. And then all of the sudden in your world, you have all of this time, there's too much dissonance. And so we create patterns to prove ourselves right. And so if you want to have more time, the first thing that we need to do is put you back in the driver's seat to make you the control freak of your calendar. I want you to be the leader of your calendar, the guide, the regulator of your calendar. And that begins with boundaries. It does. And it begins with you understanding that cognitive dissonance can also be your very best friend. So, in addition to confirming and keeping you in a backwards loop and terrible cycle of, I don't have enough time, you can also make it work to your advantage. But when you're trying to change something, you have to be aware that cognitive dissonance is a thing. So what that means, this is where affirmations come in. This is where we're shifting things to try to put you in a different position. So if you legit are at a space where it's like, I don't actually have enough time to get it all done. And I genuinely understand that. I have been in that space right now. And so here's what I'm using for myself. What is enough time? Huh. That's a different question. I have enough time to do everything that I want and need to do. Now, when I say that, there's dissonance. There's like a full on body rejection of like, I don't even think that's true. But what's happening now is my reality is going to have to start reorganizing around that feeling, around that thought. And there will be dissonance, but I can use it to my advantage because if I'm repeating this, I have enough time. I have plenty of time. I have time and spaciousness. I must have really needed this. My body is really liking this. I have time and spaciousness to do what needs to be done, and I am fully supported in getting everything else done. That's a different physiology. Now, my current, exactly at this moment reality may not reflect that. That's where the dissonance comes in. And when you have dissonance, there's a gap that has to get filled. If you can hold the dissonance to your advantage for a long enough time, your reality is going to start to reorganize. It's bizarre and amazing and wonderful, but wouldn't it be great for you to just experiment with it? I'd love for you to go on a I don't have time diet. As long as you're doing all the other BS diets, you might as well do one that actually benefits you. Stop dieting, by the way. Just have a diet. Have food that's healthy for you, that nourishes you. Stop dieting as a verb and implement diet as a noun. And I would love for you to go on this fast of saying I don't have time. I would love for you to go on this fast of saying I don't have enough money. We talked about that last week. I can't afford it. Go check that show out if you haven't seen it. When you go on this fast and when you have a different thought where you're like, I have plenty of time. I am the leader of my calendar. I am the leader of my calendar. If you're chasing your calendar, which I have been for a while now, there has to be some level of interruption. So this morning, the interruption from me was, how much time do I actually need? I have felt like I don't have enough time. So, by the way, I practice what I preach. I am absolutely continuing to learn this. It doesn't mean that you learn something and then now you have preventative, immunity for the rest of your life. No, you're still going to bump up against this stuff. I just want to make sure you have a skill set when it happens because I'm going to spoil the ending for you. It's going to happen. You're going to run out of time again. Your boundaries are going to be pushed. You're going to say, I can't afford it. You're going to experience doubt. These are all previous shows, by the way. It matters for you to be the leader of your calendar. It matters for you to start using cognitive dissonance to your advantage so that you can be in this position of power. Now, I'm hosting a Big Bold Boundaries challenge this week, and you can still get in on it. You just go to HeidiMitro.com/challenge, and you can come in, you can get caught up, because what we're talking about is the word power. Now, when I was introduced to boundaries being about power, the way that it was explained to me was from this like super, to me, out of harmony, out of congruency for me type of way, where it was like authority and dominion over. I do not want dominion over anyone at all. Boundaries, when you use the definition of the word power, which means ability, you do have the ability to be the leader of your calendar. You do have the ability to change how you're interacting with time because you're not going to get more. And we also have to acknowledge, I've read this too. Apparently, I'm giving you my social media irritation list, but this whole idea of like, you have the same number of hours in a day as Beyonce. Okay. Yes, factually, she also has 24 hours, and so do I. However, let's talk about the amount of support that she has. Let's talk about the teams and teams and teams of people that are doing all of the things in her world. Please stop comparing yourself to someone who has a full-time staff and has a staff for staff, okay? It's okay for you to acknowledge that maybe in this moment you actually do not have enough time. That's step one. That might be old pattern. Okay, I'm fine if you are there. However, you now know, now you can move into choice. Now you can move into power. You can move into this place of, I am the leader of my calendar. I am the leader of my calendar. Maybe I haven't been, right? You can feel the dissonance. And then we can shift into, I have plenty of time. I needed that for my own physiology. I have plenty of time. Now, when I look at my actual calendar, and I literally just did this, I just voxed Carrie. Hi, Carrie. Thank you for doing this. That I'm taking Monday off. I'm recognizing that I have been overscheduled. And what I said in the first iteration was, I just need like a month off. I just need a month off. Well, what that's really telling me is that there's an urgency behind this. There's this feeling of like, I got to have it now. What is actually true for me is I need a little bit more of a spacious weekend. I've been working 7 days a week for a while now, and I need a break. And that's wonderful for me to know. I'm the leader of my calendar. Why would I be self employed if I can't take control of my calendar? Here's what happens when you start to look at how much time you're spending. You're going to bump up against a whole bunch of stuff. You're going to bump up against, well, that can't happen. You're going to bump up against guilt. Let me tell you about guilt. Guilt is that signal that something is wrong. Not that you are wrong, something is wrong. Typically, what happens when high achievers bump up against guilt, because they're starting to own their time, because they're starting to have clearer, healthier, more consistent boundaries, which you can learn about in our challenge, they're going to bump up against guilt. And typically, we internalize this. There's something wrong with me. I did something wrong. I would love for you to start shifting your relationship with guilt, because what guilt is actually communicating through your physical body is something is wrong with this. So if you're looking at your calendar and you're going, if I cancel that, oh, that makes me feel so guilty. Your body may very simply be cueing you in that something is different. Something being different and something being wrong feels very much the same in your physiology, because that is your body trying to protect you from change. Your body has these beautiful mechanisms in place for you to be able to stay safe. But that makes it very challenging for you to grow, which is why, as conscious beings, it's really important to know how our bodies work. I remember being in massage school going, everybody should know this. Everybody should have an understanding of their endocrine system. Everybody should have an understanding of their nervous system, which, by the way, I'm going to be teaching inside of our Big Bold Boundaries, our challenge this week. It matters for you to have an understanding that when you say, I don't have enough time, and you go to, what would be enough time? And then you cross reference that with your calendar and you're like, I need more time here. I need 5 more hours a week. For me, I needed a full day on Monday. That's very helpful to me. What ends up happening then is you're going to bump up against guilt. Guilt is going to feel like you did something wrong. Neutralize it. Something is wrong. Wait a minute. Let's question that. Is something wrong, or is this different? Having an understanding of what your physiology is going to do when you move into something new matters, because you can soothe yourself. So this morning, in fact, I was in a high stress, like my body was really stressed, and I was feeling this. We just had Halloween yesterday, as of this recording. We just had Halloween, dear God. We had birthdays, we had family pictures, we had all the fall events, we had a retreat. I'm launching this consulting arm of what I'm doing. Like, it has been, we're bringing on team. It's been a lot, and it's been accumulating. And I sat this morning and I cried because my body was like, I got to release somehow. It's like, okay, what do I need? I need a shower. Okay, great. Added the oils to the shower. What do I need? I need more time to myself. Great. How much? I need a full day. Okay, take the full day. I am the leader of my calendar. I would love for you to experiment. It is as I'm recording this, it's November 1st. So it's the beginning of a month. I would love for you to go on a I don't have time fast for the next month. The next 30 days, I want you to, well, here's the other thing you're not allowed to say. Ooh, you're going to hate me. I'm so busy. I don't have time and I'm so busy are now stricken from your vocabulary. Most of you are not going to know what to say to each other. I remember a girlfriend of mine, this was back in our, we were probably in our 20s actually. We didn't have kids yet and we thought we were busy. And we would say to each other, life is very rich and full. And that was our code for, oh my God, this is a breakneck pace. That's not sustainable. But I want you to strike those phrases from your vocabulary. I'm so busy and I don't have time. And start to shift into, I have plenty of time. I have plenty of time. And then recognize that having plenty of time, you will need better boundaries. You will need to shift into being the leader of your calendar. And as you shift into that leadership position, and as you have an understanding that nobody gets to decide for you how you invest and spend your time, those boundaries will start to shift. You'll start saying no, and you'll start to feel guilty. Remember, guilt doesn't mean you did something wrong, unless you legit did something wrong, right? Like that's real guilt. I'm talking about mom guilt. I'm talking about overachievers guilt. I'm talking about martyrdom guilt. That's the style of guilt we're talking about. Guilt where you're not actually doing anything wrong, but something is wrong, something is different. And you can handle that. You can handle the temporary discomfort of telling someone no for the long term gain of being the leader of your calendar. I'm okay disappointing people. Do I seek that out? Of course not. But I also know that they're in charge of their own feelings. I in fact do not have to behave in a way so someone else's feelings don't get hurt. It doesn't mean I'm actively being a jerk, but it does mean that I trust people to be able to regulate themselves. And if they can't, they should probably come in and take some of my classes. Self regulation is a big deal. Remember, to regulate means to rule, to guide, to lead. And I am the leader of my calendar, I'm the leader of my feelings. And so let's recap this a little bit. You are no longer, for the next 30 days, allowed to say, I don't have time or I'm so busy. No, I'm not quite sure what you're going to tell all of your coworkers. But what if you guys did this as a crew? Okay, here's the challenge. I want you to do this with your people. Whatever team you're on, those of you from When You Lead, we're going to try this in our own behind the scenes. We're going on a I don't have time or an I'm so busy fast. And then let's see what happens. Let's make an experiment out of it. See how your body feels. I want you to reclaim the leadership position of your calendar. If your calendar is happening to you right now, it means that you need to have stronger leadership skills, which means you have to implement better boundaries. And your boundaries are about your self-care. What I'm teaching inside of the Big Bold Boundaries Challenge today is that your boundaries, so this is a little precursor, your boundaries aren't for them. They're not. Your boundaries are for you. Your calendar's for you. And if you're looking at your calendar and if you're looking at your boundaries and they're centered around everyone else, that's not what we're doing anymore. I actually want you to be self-centered. I don't want you to be a jerk, but I do want you to center yourself in your calendar. I want you to center yourself in your boundaries, center yourself in your life. Because what I know to be true about high achievers and deep feelers is that when you are centered, when you are home with yourself, your generosity is off the charts. That's a given. Don't worry about being selfish. The more centered you are on yourself, the more generous you're actually going to be. If you actually want to be generous, get selfish first. That's just true. The more you have for yourself, the more you very naturally and inevitably give. It's like this weird rule of deep feelers and high achievers. So don't worry. All right. I don't have time and I'm so busy is stricken from the record for the next 30 days. Ooh, I cannot wait to see what you guys do. Okay. I can't wait to see what I do because I have been chasing my calendar. Damn it. And consciousness for the win. So now that I know, now I can take those actions. Now I can lead by example. Now I can center myself back in my calendar. And I need more time. And I need more time for myself that's unstructured. Okay? So that's my nuance. I'm so curious what you've learned. I'm so curious what you're taking with you. And again, if you aren't sure how to implement big, bold boundaries, if you're like, I don't even know what that means, this is a free challenge and you can come in and learn the 5 F's of boundaries. Yesterday we did Boundaries 101 and there's still time for you to catch up. We can totally do that. We go live every day at 1 Central, about 45 minutes to an hour. There will be time for Q&A. And the goal of this challenge really is for you to learn the mindset, the tool set, and the skill set to go 3 for 3 in your boundaries. So that when you have spaciousness in your calendar, that's actually true. It doesn't have to be about cognitive dissonance. It's actually the truth. All right. Okay. I cannot wait to see you in that challenge. Let me know what you learned, and I will see you next week live Tuesday at 10 a.m. And hopefully, I will see you inside of the challenge. You can still register at HeidiMitro.com/challenge. And hopefully, I'll see you today at 1. All right. Be well, my friends. I'll see you.